ridiculous.
Well, here's the thing.
Maybe. Sometimes.
Tell me about this. I want to know more.
Oh, yeah. No.
Holy cow.
We've had a lot of fun.
Hello and welcome to Parenting Roundabout, a weekly podcast about the things that parents are talking about, obsessing about, and complaining about right now. I'm Terry Morrow, and with me today is Catherine Holeko.
Hi, Terry.
Not with me today is Nicole Eridix, who is home from her travels, but brought back a case of plain plague. So instead of making her record from her sickbed, we are going to put together in her honor some past episodes about being under the weather. Our first is a speed round from February 2017, in which we asked, what happens in your house when a parent gets sick? I think we've talked here before about when kids are sick, but there's another phenomenon that takes place in families, and that is when adults are sick. Are we actually allowed to be sick? I'm not entirely clear on this, but we thought we'd talk about what happens in our house when we or our spouses are sick. Catherine, you've just been dealing with this very thing.
Yes.
How's it going?
Oh, my goodness. My husband was sick for a long time. I mean, he missed a week of work because he had just this really vicious virus, and he was just completely out of the picture. So, as I think I said on Twitter, I liked the sleep all day phase of that illness better than the sighing and moaning phase that followed it. I mean, I did feel bad because he really was uncomfortable and in pain and unable to do anything. But yeah, it was hard because I was doing everything, and I was, begging other people for rides for my kids all the time because I can't be in two places at once. And yeah, so it was not fun. And then, he was having trouble sleeping, so he would just keep moving. He would just migrating around. He would be in our room for a while, then he'd be in the guest room, then he'd be on one couch, then he'd be on the other couch. And in the morning, you'd see the trail of pillows and blankets where he'd been. And for a while, I just slept on the extra bed in my son's room, which did wonders for my back. So yeah, it's been a lot of fun.
My husband doesn't get sick much, or if he does get sick, he doesn't admit it. So he just suffers silently, and you can tell by just the way he looks, or if he sleeps more than he used to, or whatever. Rarely can I get him to go to a doctor. And as for me, it's I live where I work, so it's really hard to get a sick day. Because it's the computer's sitting there, and it's well, perhaps if I could sit up, I could do some work.
Right. It's really hard when you're...
Yeah. I mean, I know there's been at least one time when I had a flu that just completely knocked me out, sleep and hallucination and all that stuff. And there was nothing I was going to do except be sick. But that doesn't happen that often. More often it's I feel crummy, but I probably still can do stuff. Mm-hmm. We have a lot of that. Yeah. And we do stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
How about you, Nicole?
Well, when I'm sick, life goes on and nothing changes. And when my husband's sick, we literally quarantine him. It could be a sniffle or it could be a raging illness. He will still behave the same way. He doesn't listen to this podcast, so I can say that. But he is atrocious. It's like a hospital emergency room in his area. There's gauzes and lotions and syrups and a trail of Kleenex. And so we're getting to the point now where we just want to slap some plastic sheeting up and in the corner.
Did you see that episode of Speechless where they actually did that?
They did.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's pretty much my husband. We'll put some, yellow caution tape around or do not cross tape around and leave him in the corner of the house. And yeah, he moans and groans and complains, and we just kind of, work around him. So.
We also talked about parents being sick or taking a sick day in this episode from November 2016.
Now, my kids already this school year have each had one sick day. At least one was rather dubious in origin. But I was wondering if you could recall in the dusty recesses of your memory when the last time was that you took a sick day. Terry?
Well, it would have been the last time I worked in an office, I guess, which is, I can't even remember how long ago that was now. My kids were in elementary school, so a decade, more than a decade.
But what about have you ever just been like, oh, I'm too sick, I can't work today?
I think once in a while I may have had the flu and done that, but in general, I am in bed propped up on pillows with my laptop. You can't, when you're a freelancer, you can't really take a sick day, can you? It's,
It's hard.
It's hard. The deadlines do not go away.
Right. Yeah, I mean, at least when you're going on vacation or when I've, gone away, I have done things in advance so that I can be away. Prepared. But it's hard to do that when you're sick.
Yeah.
Well, I think probably the last time I've, said I'm not doing any work today is when I had my gum surgery.
Ew.
It's been like non-functional for a day or two when that happens. So how about you, Nicole?
So we're not talking about taking sick days from being a mom, right?
Well, that never happened.
When just in the month before we moved to America, I worked up until the day before we moved.
Wow.
And so we had sold our house. I was packing everything up. I had my 2 kids in school. My husband was here in the States working. And then I was teaching more than full time at that point. At full time at that point, I believe, from what I can remember. And so, I needed to have some sick days to manage everything. I don't think my old school district is listening, but I needed some of those days.
I bet.
Paid sick days and paid vacation days are one of the very, very, very few things I miss about working in an office. Just that you could say that there is a structure in which you can say, I don't feel well, I'm not going to work today. Or I am going on a vacation and I'm going to enjoy my family for a week. That never happens now, and I miss it.
Yeah, it didn't really happen. It doesn't really happen when you're a teacher either, because it's more work to prepare be away than it is to be away. And then generally your whole program stops when you're away, so you're backed up when you come.
More trouble
back.
than it's
so
worth.
It's challenging. How about you, Catherine?
Yeah, I think it was probably when I had surgery. I mean, once in a while, if I have a migraine, I just take a nap. So I take like a sick hour.
Yeah. And there are those days when my family thinks I haven't had enough sleep or I'm not feeling well, and they let me sleep a long time, and then I lose half the day. So that's sort of a surprise sick day.
Right. Like, you guys, why did you wake me up?
I know, what have you done? Of course, being sick means maybe having to go to the doctor, which is really kind of adding insult to injury, don't you think? We talked about our doctor visit woes on a July 2017 speed round. Nicole, hope you're not revisiting any of these this week.
Welcome to the Parenting Roundabout Speed Round, where we answer a quick question every day to keep our group chat fun going all week long. Now, if you know me well, and you've been listening to this podcast, you know that I have certain issues when it comes to health.
Yes, indeed.
Yes, namely a big anxiety issue when it comes to going to the doctor. And so this week, we thought we would bring those anxieties up again for me and talk about...
Yeah, they're evergreen.
Yes, what is the worst thing about going to the doctor? And I know what I have to say. Catherine, what about you?
I think it is, I mean, putting aside, like, if you have to get a shot or, something painful, it is sitting in the examining room in your paper gown, waiting for the doctor to come in. And can you should you be on your phone? Can you read a magazine? like waiting. Because it might be 2 minutes or it might be like 40 minutes.
Right.
So,
yeah. You just don't know what to do.
Just awkward.
Exactly. Well, the other day when I went, I left my phone in the car. So you can imagine, I know, right? Like, what do I do?
Yikes.
And there were no magazines in the room. So I cleaned out my purse. But that's not the worst thing about going to the doctor for me.
No.
Terry, how about you?
Yeah, I don't go to the doctor that often anymore. And I feel like whenever I go, things remain unresolved. So why am I even going?
Mm-hmm.
I go and I make my little complaints, and my choices are generally either do this big invasive test or procedure or do nothing. Either way is fine. Mm-hmm. And so I do nothing, but then I feel stupid for having gone to the doctor.
Well, and those are the times when I just want to kind of shake them and say, well, you're the doctor. What should I do?
And yet the fact is, if he said, do this big invasive thing, I'd probably say, no. But if he says do nothing, then I'm feeling like, well, he doesn't care about my health at all. What's the matter with that? It's like, I came here and you should tell me what to do. So I recognize that the doctor can't win, but it makes me feel like I don't have the time to go sit in a waiting room, sit in an examining room, talk to this guy, give him all my, pour out all my information that I've been gathering, and then have it kind of be okay. It's basically the upshot of it. And consequently, I don't go very much, which is not good either. So.
No. Well, I think I go too often, and as a result, have all sorts of anxieties. This week, I'm taking issue with the fact that I have to wait too long for test results, and for my daughter, namely, and her doctor's office does not post them online. How dare they in this day and age?
That is wrong.
That's right.
Yes.
It's wrong. So that's my big complaint about going to the doctor at this point. So...
Yeah, there seems to be all this technology, and yet I'm not sure it's being used effectively.
I don't know. Yeah, either way, I'm taking issue with it. So that's it for today's speed round. Come back tomorrow for another question and visit parentingroundabout.com for all our group chats and other weekly episodes.
And as much as we dislike being sick and going to the doctor, we would much rather do that than have to do it for and with our kids, as we complained about in a segment of our April 2016 group chat.
That got us thinking about how we handle illness as parents. And is your kid a monster when he's sick? Are you a nurturer or a walk-it-off parent? How do you react? How do you handle it when your children are sick? Catherine, how do you respond when you've got illness in the house?
Well, I think I just mentioned in the last week or two how my daughter had a ruptured appendix, and I was completely clueless. So I was doing the whole walk it off thing, like, here, have some Tums. Your tummy hurts, like that, you'll be fine. And she really needed immediate surgery and a morphine drip, like. And she was in the hospital for 2 weeks. So, needless to say, she has never let me live that down. It was almost 8 years ago. But, I haven't really learned my lesson because I'm still not that great at being sympathetic when my kids are sick. My daughter has some anxiety, and in the past it has caused her to, miss school or go to the nurse's office because, her stomach hurts or she can't breathe. And it's, I know that she's really feeling those things. But she, I get stressed about her missing school. So then I get like, well, too bad. You You just have to go to school. So it's rough. It's rough. And whereas my son is not, he's not the kind of kid who is like, oh, I feel sick, I need this or that. So I'm a little quicker to say like, oh, well, you can stay home from school, or you can, watch another TV show or whatever it is you want.
How about you, Terry? What happens in your house?
I mean, when I was growing up, you had to have like a fever to stay home from school. If you just had a cold and were snotty, you just put a bunch of tissues in your pocket and went. Yeah. And so that's how I've been with my kids too. Because I mean, both of them have like sinus things all during the winter. If I kept my son home whenever he had a runny nose, I would have to homeschool him. So it's just, so I send them, but then you hear more and more, there's kids with medically fragile conditions, and don't send your sick kid to school. And, people look at you funny if you do, but I really am uncomfortable with keeping a kid who's not obviously sick home just because they're sneezing or something. It's not the way I was raised in the tough days when you just did walk it off, But I sympathize so much with you, Catherine, about the appendix thing, because I don't know if I've talked about it on the podcast before, but my son had something where for like a few weeks he would come home from school complaining of a stomach ache, and I would say, well, do you want to take something? No, it's fine. And he was having girl trouble at the time, so I figured it was just that. And then one night, all of a sudden, he's screaming that his stomach is really hurting and he wants to go to the ER, which he never does. He doesn't feel pain that terribly. So we get there, and, they're taking him in, and they took him to do like a little scan of his stomach, and they come back in and they hook him up to a morphine drip. And it's like, okay, this is getting real. His stomach had burst open. He had a ruptured ulcer. And they had to take him in for emergency surgery. And I had I was like, well, he didn't complain, but he did complain. He just complained a little bit, and I ignored it. So now I am on his case constantly. How's your stomach? Your stomach okay? How's it feeling? And he's like, go away. It's fine. But I'm constantly, what a terrible mother who just let him get to a ruptured ulcer. His stomach broke open. He could have had really serious complications from that. We're just blessed and lucky that he didn't.
Same here.
Another time he had, my daughter, when she had an ear infection, she would scream immediately in pain. She did not keep it under wraps. Another time, my son was acting a little funny, so I brought him to the doctor. They figured he had an ear infection for a month and just never said anything. So it's like, you didn't know your kid had an ear infection? Well, no. Yeah. So, maybe I'm a little too willing to just overlook problems. You never know when they're going to be. And then, of course, there's a million times you bring the kid into the doctor and there's nothing wrong with them. And they look at you like, why are you here? So you really can't win.
Yeah, I have to say I'm in that same situation. I've had the same experience as the both of you in terms of misdiagnosing my child with something far less serious than what it actually was. And there was and I think I've talked about this before, but there was an incident where Josh came in, he was rollerblading. That should have been my first clue that something had gone wrong. He came in complaining of a sore wrist. And of course I had a long day at work, and I was, going to go have a bubble bath. And as soon as he said that he thought he broke his wrist, I thought, oh no, that means the emergency room. And that means a good 5-hour commitment right there. Yeah. So being a little selfish, I said, oh, you'll be fine. Just go put some ice on it. And of course, he did, and it didn't get better. My husband came home. What's going on? His wrist is hurting. Whisked him off to the doctor, came home with a cast. So, that sometimes comes up in our house, that event.
Shocking.
Yeah, but then I get to turn around and tell my husband that he let our son
get bit by a monkey.
By a monkey. Yes, he's at the mercy of a monkey. So
no, now we're that down.
Fair and square. But my daughter, on the other hand, I kind of feel like she complains. She has a lot of headaches, which kind of stress me out. And
your dog?
Because daughter.
Oh, my daughter. I was like, wow, how does your dog tell you that he has headaches?
No, my daughter gets headaches a lot, and sometimes it's hard to really gauge the severity of those.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if she uses them to her advantage or not. That's really mean to say, but sometimes I sense that she'll use she. And so, like Catherine, I'm like, go on, you can do it. You know, push yourself to get through it. You'll be fine. And then she ends up throwing up everywhere, and then I look bad.
Yeah, I mean, headaches are hard. As a kid who had headaches and the person who still has them, it's so hard because there's no way to there's no way to objectively tell anybody what's going on. So
exactly, or even just like the pain reference. So I'm like, okay, on a scale of 1 to 10, how much pain are you in? So try and gauge it.
But there's like the face scale, isn't there? Like a happy face to a sad face or something like that.
Yeah,
I've used that.
They have that in the emergency room.
Yes.
Yeah.
When my son went into the emergency room, there was no doubt because he went up to the front desk and he was going, "It hurts, make it stop." He was like, so "This is how you get seen right away in the ER. Is you just have your kid screaming out loud that he's in pain." They took us back pretty fast.
Wow.
We just went in at 4:00 in the morning, so that worked.
Oh, that'll do it too. Well,
there wasn't a lot of competition for.
I don't know. We might have some gang action at 4:00 in the morning
at
the
the
hospital.
Just we go to. We don't.
About when they roll in.
Well, it was when they hooked her up to the morphine that I was like, oh, wow,
yes, that is the point
bad.
at which you go.
Oh boy.
Well, they're taking this seriously now.
Yeah.
It's like you're glad they're taking it seriously, but on the other hand, this means that it is serious.
Yeah.
So, that is scary.
Well,
I never want to do that.
No, never. The good news is now that my daughter has her appendix out, anytime her stomach hurts, I can just say, "Well, we know it's not your appendix."
And then does she rub your nose in the fact that you missed it when it was?
No, she usually just like, rolls her eyes.
Yeah.
Well, in the sports that your kids play, do they get like a lot of talk about playing hurt and ignoring problems for the team?
I mean, I think because of the seriousness of concussions, a lot of the sports leagues are really trying to emphasize the fact that you should not play while you're hurt, and especially if you have any kind of head injury or headache, say something, because it is still out there. It's still a perception that people have that, you should be able to shake that off. And so it's a culture change that's underway, but it's not completed.
Not there yet. I think you were saying the other day you were taking your kid in for like a baseline test so that if he gets a concussion later, they'll have something to compare to. Or?
Yeah, that it's called an impact test. The specific one that she did. I know it stands for something else. But both my kids have done those, and it's just a baseline computer-based test that they take, and then that way, if they do ever get an injury later, they can take the test again, and then they compare the two.
Yeah.
So it's a good thing to just have as a baseline.
I think it's wonderful that they do that, but I personally never want to be involved in an activity where I would need to have that done in advance.
Yeah. Well, you'd be surprised at how many sports that applies to, soccer,
I guess
basketball.
As a writer, you could hit your head against the monitor when you were frustrated, and maybe it would be good to.
Yeah, maybe you need a baseline, Terry.
Maybe I need a baseline. Nicole, for sure.
Yeah, exactly. Wow.
So that's it for our episode today. Nicole, we hope you're feeling better, and we hope to have everybody back in town and healthy for next week's episodes. Meanwhile, Catherine and I will be back tomorrow for a brand new round 2, and we'll also bring you new, if Nicole-free, speed rounds throughout this week. You can listen to podcast episodes on Radio Public or download them from Apple Podcasts. Please subscribe so that you get all of our podcasts and mini podcasts. You can also follow us on Twitter, where I am at Momitude, Catherine is at C. Haleko, and Nicole is at Nicole Eridix.
You can also follow the podcast on Twitter at Roundabout Chat and look for us on Facebook, Pinterest, Tumblr, and Instagram too. Best of all, stop by our podcast page at parentingroundabout.com and find recaps, links to everything we've mentioned, and a chance to talk back in the comments. Thanks to John Moran at johnjmoran.com for providing our in and out music, and I wish everyone a great week.